Hello everyone, I am back with another tutorial. This time I'm going to do a 22-inch Blackberry stitch button-up cardigan with a collar. Some call this bubble, but I call it Blackberry, so you can call it whatever you want. I've started cast the stitches on. I'll blow this up so you can see better. I don't know if you can see the size on there. It's 3.25mm needles for the rib, and I'll be using 4mm for the body part of the thing. So I'm going to cast on. I've started casting on here. I need 63 stitches for the back. And when I cast on, I do a cable cast on. So you knit into the back of the stitch, not through the stitch. Into the back of the stitch. And that's how I'm casting on until I have 63 stitches for the back. So that's how I'm casting on, and I'm going to show some of the instructions here. Now it's going to be, this is the back, and I'm doing the 22, and this is the back, and I'm using 325mm needles, and I'm casting on 63 stitches, and I'm going to knit in 1 by 1 rib for 10 rows, and then I'll be changing to 4mm needles, but I will come back with a bit more of the instructions after that. Now I have done 9 rows of rib, and I'm on to the 10th row, the last row of the rib. And the rib is just knit one, purl one, but I'm doing a twisted rib, which is just knitting into the back of every knit stitch, like that. Just go knit into the back like that. And that twists your stitch and gives it a nice effect into the back of the knit stitch. And now I'm almost finished this row. So that's the 10 rows of rib I've done, and I'm going to change to the 4mm needle now. That's a 4mm needle, and I'm going to knit 6 rows with a 4mm needle before the pattern actually starts. So they're just 1 row knit and 1 row all purl. So 1 row all knit and 1 row all purl for 6 rows. And now I'll knit those 6 rows, and then I will come back and tell you how to start the pattern. I have knit the 6 rows of stocking stitch. That's how you start this pattern off with, after you do the rib. And I'm going to knit, to show how to do the pattern, the first row I'm going to knit 3 stitches, and then to make the bubble in the blackberry stitch, you take the next stitch and you drop it off the needle. Take it off like that, and then you drop that stitch down 4 rows. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you put your right hand needle into that 5th stitch down below, and you put your needle underneath all those stitches you just dropped. So you've got 4 stitches that you've dropped and the stitch that you've just picked up, and you knit all those together. I have a little bit of hair wound round my needle and I'm wool there. Take it off first. That's it, got it out. So you have the needle, you picked up that 5th stitch down, and you have the 4 stitches. So that's 5 stitches all together on the needle, and you're going to knit all of those stitches together like that, and then knit 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Drop your next stitch down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put the right hand needle into that 5th stitch down. Bring it up underneath all those stitches that you've just dropped. So you have 5 stitches all together that you're going to knit. And then you knit the next 3 stitches again, and that is called knitting 5 below. So you enter the next stitch, drop 1, 2, 3, 4, and pick that 5th stitch up with your right hand needle and put it underneath all of those stitches you just dropped down, and knit them all together, and then knit 3 stitches again. And you do that all the way along the row. You drop 5 below and then knit 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pick up the 5th stitch, right hand needle underneath all those stitches, and knit them all together. 1, 2, 3. So we're now on to the last 4 stitches. So we're going to drop that next stitch down. 1, 2, 3. Sometimes you get the bits of wool stick together like what's happened here, and I just put my needle underneath and just pull it out so it breaks the way the stitches are held together. And just put your right hand needle under that 5th stitch down, knit them all together, and then knit the last 3 stitches on the needle. And that is how you start off the pattern. And as you can see, the little bubbles are forming there. And then you just knit 5 rows in stocking stitch, and then on the 6th row you do that again, but I will show you because you'll be doing it in a different place. So I'll show you that when I come to it. So that's how the pattern is looking now. And I have knit, after I've done the bubble row, I have knit another 5 rows, and it purl, plain, knit, purl, knit and purl, and I'm on to the 6th row to do the pattern again. And this pattern, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to knit 1 stitch and then drop the next stitch down. But if, like me, you're working this out for yourself, you need to know where that stitch is going to be, because it's got to be in between so that you get the bubble going in between. Well, the bubble actually has 3 stitches. We'll look at this one further in. Here, the bubble has 3 stitches, and you have to drop the stitch down in the centre of that bubble. So that's the centre stitch there. So that's 1, 2, 3 there. That is the next stitch there. So that stitch there, the second stitch on the needle runs down in the center of the first bubble. So we're going to knit 1 stitch, drop that next stitch down, 4 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4. Put your right hand needle through that stitch. Make sure you pick the whole stitch up, because sometimes the needle can split the stitch. Put it underneath those 4 stitches. So you have 5 stitches together there. Then you're going to knit those 5 stitches together. It's a bit awkward when you're starting with 1 stitch. I can't quite get it through here. It is a little bit awkward when you have only 1 stitch at the start of the row. We're going to knit 3 stitches, drop the next one down, 1, 2, 3, 4. Put the right hand needle into that stitch underneath the other 4 stitches and pick them all up together. Then 1, 2, 3, drop that stitch down again, 1, 2, 3, 4, put your needle through that 5th stitch down underneath the other 4 stitches, knit them all together, and then do that all the way across the row. Now I'm on to the last 5 stitches, so I'm going to knit 1, 2, 3. I'm going to drop down the second last stitch on the needle, 1, 2, 3, 4. It is a bit awkward when you're when you only have 1 stitch left on the other needle. And then knit that last stitch. And that is 2 rows of the pattern formed. And so you're going to repeat those rows. I'm going to knit another 5 rows, and then on the 6th row I'll be doing the first row again, where you start with knit 3 and drop down. But I will show you the instructions on the pad here. And so I have written up the top here, telling you what 5 below is. Just drop the stitch down 4 rows, put the right hand needle into the 5th stitch down, and bring underneath the 4 dropped stitches and knit all together. That's for anyone that hasn't noticed what I've said during the thing. So I've started with the back with 325mm needles. So started with the back and cast on 63 stitches. And then I knit in 1 by 1. I haven't got it written down here, but I always knit in twisted rib, which is knitting into the back of the knit stitch. And then you do that for 10 rows, and then change to 4mm needles, and then you knit 6 rows in stocking stitch before you start the pattern. Row 1 is knit 3, knit 5 below, repeat the stitches and brackets and knit to the end. Rows 2 to 6, knit in stocking stitch. And then from row 7, it's knit 1, knit 5 below, knit 3, repeat the stitches and brackets and knit to the end. And row 8 to 12, knit in stocking stitch and repeat these 12 rows until your work measures 8.5 inches. Now the tension, I have a pattern, you're ending on a wrong side row. I have a King Cole pattern, and the tension tells you on a 4-inch square that the number of rows you do is 28, but that is wrong, because I did on the 24-inch one, after the rib I knit 8.5 inches up to the armholes, and I had 84 rows, which works out 10 rows, sorry, to the inch. So the tension on that pattern is wrong. There's a lot of things wrong on that pattern as well. That's why I'm writing my own out. So that's as far as I've got, and I'll come back with the rest of the instructions when I do more, when I get up to the armholes. Now, I am now up to the armholes. I have knit from the edge of the rib here up to there. I've knit 8.5 inches, and I'm going to cast off each side, 3 stitches each side. But the number of rows I did from here up to there was 72, and then I've knit 2 rows of the knit 2 of the 6 rows, or the 5 rows. I've knit 2 rows of the 5 rows, and I'm going to cast off the stitches before I start the pattern. So there's actually 74 rows altogether. That's how many I've knitted. So I'm now going to cast off 3 stitches each side. Blow that up. It's 1, 2, 3. I'm going to knit to the end of the row. And I'm now at the end of the row. And I'm now going to cast off 3 stitches purlwise. That's 1, 2, 3, and then purl to the end of the row. Now I'll pause that until I get there. And at the end of the row again. And I am now going to start the pattern on this row, because I've knitted the 5 rows from the last bubble, and it's on the 6th row. And this is where you have to find out where you put that bubble stitch yourself, where you drop the stitches down below. Well, I'm not going to decrease on this row. It's not going to be on the one after this, because I'm doing it on the 4th row twice. So I'm going to knit the first 2 stitches, because they'll be where the decreasing goes, and then you have to work out where to put the bubble, and you look for the center stitch on the bubble down below, which is this stitch here. There are 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. That's the center stitch, so follow that up to the needle there. So you're going to knit 2 more stitches and drop that stitch down. That's how you find where you put the next stitch for the bubble, because you have to work this out for yourself. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Pick that stitch up underneath the other stitches and knit them all together. And that's 1, 2, 3. And your next bubble is again in the center of the 3 stitches here, the center stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Those stitches are sticking together. I just put my needle underneath. You can see the stitches are sticking together. Just pull it through like that. And knit all those stitches. And carry on to the end of the row. now we're at the end of the row and we're going to drop the stitches down the last time. And here you see that stitch there, follow that down. That is the centre of 3 stitches. The 3 stitches where the bubble is. So you drop it down 1, 2, 3, 4. Pick all those stitches up and knit to the end of the row. Now we're going to purl across the next row. And I will pause that until I get to the end. So the next row is a decreasing row. So we're going to some wool out, knit 1 stitch, slip 1 stitch, knit the next stitch and pass that slip stitch over, and then just knit across, because you have a few rows of plain knitting before you start the bubble again. We'll just knit across to the other end. Now we're at the last 3 stitches at the end of that row, so we're going to knit 2 stitches together and knit the last row, and that's your decreasing. And then we're going to knit another 3 rows and decrease exactly the same way as we did on that row, and then it'll be every alternate row after that until you have 21 stitches left on the needle, and I will be back there. So that's the back finished, and I have finished on the right side row, because when you put your stitches onto a stitch holder, if you finish on the wrong side row, the holder or needle, whatever you put your stitches on, is facing the wrong way, and you have to put them onto another needle. But if you finish on the right side row, the pin that I'm putting in the holder will be facing the right way when you come to pick up the stitches for the neck. And you're knitting that row anyway when you pick up the stitches for the neck. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to put these stitches on. I've been left with 21 stitches. I'm putting it onto the stitch holder. So that's the back finished. Next part will be one of the fronts.